All right, I suggest we start. So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, bon appetit. My name is Nir Noor. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of HMNC Brain Health, and would be happy to present to you our company, or as we call it, the Precision Psychiatry Company. And why do we call it that way? Because we believe that we pioneer precision psychiatry or targeted personalized medicine in the field of mental health. And that is end-to-end from companion diagnostic to the compound. We do that with our artificial intelligence platform that together with its resulting 3 compounds, we believe has a blockbuster potential and the potential to revolutionize the industry of mental health. And that is also driven by the huge market that we target, mental health, as you probably know. Major Depressive Disorder, one of the indications in depression, consists of over 300 million people globally. $13 billion total drug market for antidepressants was the most conservative estimate that we found. Post-COVID, you could get to much more than that. With forecasts to getting much more than that in the next 10 years. And that is driven also by very little innovation in the field of mental health in the past couple of decades. And if you look at currently available antidepressants, very low efficacy, very long time to remission, and ample side effects. So we tackle all of that, as I mentioned, with our artificial intelligence platform, combining genetics, mental health, and analytics. And that brings us to our game-changing personalized therapies, diversified portfolio of 3 compounds, and important to mention, all of them have a take-at-home or swallow-at-home profile, so no sweat, no hassle, no need to go to the clinic, no need to be monitored for dissociative effects or anything like that. Those 2 advantages give them a peak sales potential of over $3 billion, only in the indications of major depressive disorder and treatment-resistant depression, which are our 2 main indications, with considerable upside for application in other indications in the field of mental health. We have already a couple of partnerships with Big Pharma, Sanofi, Eisai, IP protection through the mid-2030s with the ability to prolong that. Company is a spin-off of the Max Planck Institute in Germany, so headquartered there, but also having presence here in the US, including myself, the CFO. I'm based here. And we're currently in our Series B fundraising round. If we get to the artificial intelligence in a bit more details, it basically allows us to develop companion diagnostics to compounds, to antidepressants, and thereby be able to stratify the population and then make sure that we can administer a drug to a patient knowing in advance that he is a good responder. And that is getting away from the current paradigm of one size fits all. And as you probably know, the problem with that is that you have a patient, you administer him an antidepressant, and it could take weeks, if not months, to ascertain whether that antidepressant really worked. And if not, then it's the other one, and then if not, then the other one, and then you may get to even a couple of years without having any efficacy. So obviously that's a huge waste of time, hassle, cost, both for the patient and for the healthcare system and society overall. And in the end, might reduce the propensity of that patient to take the drug to begin with. In addition, in our industry, the other potential risk is that the patient may even commit suicide meanwhile. Looking at our leadership team, world-renowned personas in the field of pharmaceuticals, mental health, and diagnostics, led by our chairman of the board, Dr. Franz Humer, the ex-CEO and chairman of Roche, and one of the first CEOs in Big Pharma who really emphasized the need of pharmaceuticals and diagnostics to work together. And that's why he's here with us at HMNC Brain Health, because this is practically what we do. Florian Holzberg, another board member and the chair of our scientific advisory board, one of the most renowned personas in the field of mental health globally, the ex-director of the Max Planck Institute of Psychiatry, and author of over 1,200 articles, scientific articles in the field of mental health. Getting a bit on the market, as you probably know, the burden of depression and mental health has been soaring in the past couple of decades, exacerbated by COVID-19. That was one of the effects of this pandemic. Estimated that around 8% of the total population of the world suffers from mental disorders. Around half of that is major depressive disorder, so over 300 million people globally. Around a third of that is treatment-resistant depression, defined as people who do not respond to the first 2 consecutive treatments. That positions depression as number 3 globally in terms of total disease burden to society, and expected actually to rank number 1 by year 2030, by which time total burden to society from mental health expected to rise to $6 trillion. So definitely huge market with huge unmet need and a critical and urgent need to come up with innovative solutions. One of our co-founders, Professor Holzberg, itemized and articulated his frustrations from currently available antidepressants and actually what should be done in terms of better treatments. Those big 4 are actually our credo, and our compounds adhere to those tenets. And the first one is faster efficacy, so not needing to wait weeks or months. Higher response and remission, and then normalization of functioning of the patient. And another very important one is less side effects, either physiological or psychological, psychiatric, such as dissociative, hallucinogenic side effects. Then getting to our portfolio, 3 compounds as I mentioned. The first one, Ketabon, is a ketamine oral formulation, read out proof of concept phase 2. Supposed to go into a larger phase 2 very soon, with the readout in about a year from today. Supposed to go to market 2027. The other 2 are precision psychiatry, so it's Ketabon, not precision psychiatry, but again, targeting a more narrow population to begin with, so only treatment-resistant depression. And the other 2 targeting major depressive disorder. Cortibon expected to go to men around next year. Nalivabon expected to start a large multinational phase 2 very soon, with readouts towards the end of next year. Then getting to Ketabon, our ketamine formulation. So as you probably know, ketamine psychedelic has been used for over 50 years, initially as an dissociative anesthetic, and then known to be used also as an antidepressant in lower doses. There are a couple of authorized uses for ketamine. One of them is IV in Kleenex, and the other one is intranasal by Spravato, by J&J, sorry, the product Spravato. In terms of efficacy, those formulations have reasonable efficacy. The problem with them is the side effects, both physiological and psychiatric, mainly the dissociative side effects, necessitating them to be given under supervision in hospital and clinics. And that's a huge hassle because, again, the patient needs to take a day off. There's a lot of time and money and costs on behalf of the healthcare system workers. That's a major issue, which in the end might lead the patient actually not to take the drug to begin with. So our product, Ketabon, presumes to have at least the same level of efficacy and early onset, hopefully even better, and then have very low to no side effects, and being a prolonged formulation, basically be a fully take at home or swallow at home compound. So by that, it would save a lot of costs and would increase the propensity of the patient to begin with to take the drug. Then hot off the press, getting to our clinical trial, phase 2 proof of concept clinical trial that read out about 2 weeks ago, held in the University Hospital in Zurich, showed that the high dosage of ketabon had a larger improvement versus both the lower dose and versus placebo in the amount of around 4.99 points on the MADRS score. In addition, it showed early onset by showing a similar level of improvement already on day 7, and those are taken from day 15. And then, just to give you a sense of magnitude of how big that is, if we're looking at the esketamine formulation Spravato that I mentioned before, and it's a US label and the trial that is quoted there, we're talking about only 2 points on the MADRS score after 2 weeks, again versus 4.99 for ketabon, and 4 points after 4 weeks. So definitely at least as good efficacy. Then when it comes to the tolerability and safety, we read no impact on heart rate or blood pressure for the patients who took ketabon, and then no impact on dissociative side effects or placebo level dissociative side effects, and no other adverse events. So this is those two are very critical requirements for positioning of this drug as a take-it-home drug. And again, in sharp contrast to other ketamine formulations and a lot of other antidepressants. And next steps are to take it to a large multinational phase 2 trial that is supposed to start in the next few weeks and read in about a year from today. Then getting to our precision psychiatry compounds, nelimabon and cortibon. They are also take-it-home profiles and based on the HPA axis or stress axis. So the stress axis is the mechanism that allows the body and the brain to produce this sensation of stress. Starts with the secretion of vasopressin and CRH in the brain, then through some feedback loop going through the adrenal glands, and the secretion of cortisol creates stress and then gets attenuated down. Then it has been studied that in about 30% of patients, respectively, this mechanism does not work, and the level of cortisol remains high, thereby causing depression. Then those compounds kick in, being CRH and vasopressin antagonists, and stop that dysfunctioning. Then the companion diagnostics kick in the sense that they are used as predictors which patients to give this compound to. So they predict which patients have this dysfunctioning in this HPA axis. Then for better or worse, those compounds or similar thereof were already used by big pharma. And then for better, they showed very good tolerability and safety. But the problem is that they were terminated because of very mediocre efficacy. As you can see here, you have there the active arm, so the CRH1 untested, which is slightly better than placebo, but not as good as the standard of care. And that was the reason for their halt. We believe that the reason for that is, again, because they were used with an unselected population. So that is the average, whereas probably only 30% of that population were good responders for those drugs. Then with the ability to predict this 30%, we could get to those results that you can see there on the right-hand side, which were calculated as pro forma ones, which are, as you can see, much better than the standard of care. So each of those drugs expected to benefit around 30% of MDD patients, so around 100 million people each globally. Nilivabon about to start a large multinational trial very soon with a readout towards the end of next year, and Cortibon is supposed to go to men around next year. Then financially, as I mentioned, blockbuster potential. So each of our compounds is supposed to have a peak sales potential of over $1 billion, and that could be very conservative. That is assuming that we scrap only a couple of % of the market. And then in total, over $3 billion peak sales potential. That is only from the key indications of MDD and TRD, and only from the key geographies, US and Europe. And again, regardless of the sales potential top line, they have, which is I think in our industry very key, limited risk profile. So Ketabon, again, read out already the proof of concept phase 2 and is known as an antidepressant, and Nilivabon, Cortibon, already similar drugs went through phase 2 by those big pharma companies. IP portfolio, encompassing those are the granted patents, encompassing for the most part Europe and the US, and to an extent APAC with a couple of pending patents in the pipeline as well. Protection through the mid-2030s with the ability to prolong that. We're now in our Series B fundraising round, aspiring to raise around $50 million, which are slated predominantly to accelerate our clinical development and expected to suffice for us through the end of next year or a bit later than that. And if I would need to really summarize HMNC Brain Health, or the psychiatry company, as I mentioned, there are two shortcomings of currently available antidepressants and also many that are in the pipeline. So one, as I mentioned, this one size fits all. You're getting an antidepressant, and then only after weeks or months it is possible to ascertain whether that really worked for the patient or not. Again, a lot of time and cost for the patient, for the healthcare system that are being wasted. And the second one is the need to take, for instance, a lot of psychedelics that are in development under medical supervision. So you lose a day of work. You need to travel to the clinic, to the hospital. There's a lot of costs that are being wasted as a result of that. Our solution is a no sweat, no hassle pill swallow at home. No need to go anywhere and no side effects, or very low. And due to that, we believe that those compounds have the potential to revolutionize the field of mental health and have a blockbuster potential. And that is, I would add, even if some of the other companies in the industry will market their drugs, I think that the market is so huge and the unmet need is so pronounced that there's a lot of room for several companies. Thank you. Happy to take any questions if there are any. No questions? All right. Thank you. Question? Yeah?
Are you looking at this as strictly a ketamine play, or are you also looking at this psychedelic market as well?
I'm sorry, are we looking at it as a psychedelic or a pure play?
How are you looking at the market how are you looking at your position within the mental health market as it relates to an array of drugs, not just in your space?
Yeah, so again, as I mentioned, our portfolio is basically split into two. So the first one is the ketamine formulation. So we definitely consider it superior to the currently available ketamine formulations. And then also looking at the dissociative effects of a lot of other psychedelics, also better than them because of that. It is an adjunct therapy, So supposed to be taken with another conventional drug. Then the other major depressive disorder compounds, Onilivabon and Cortibon, they're supposed to be taken alone, so that's monotherapy. They're not supposed to be suitable for everyone. As I mentioned, only 30% of the MDD patients, but with the ability to predict who that will be suitable for, then we're sure that whoever we administer it to will be a good responder. All right. Any further questions? No? All right. Thank you.